all so much for stopping by today. So I wanted to bring you all along with me as I'm doing two things out here in the garden today. So we had a lot of rain to just dump yesterday, and it came at an hour that was not on my weather app. Sometimes I'm like, just stop looking at the weather app. But it just came, and it came down really hard, which I'm thankful for, because it had gotten back up in the 90s, y'all. And I'm still doing some planting in the summer, but believe it or not, in a few weeks, I'm gonna start thinking about the fall garden, but I'm still getting some planting done. But I wanted to share with you today because I'm about to get ready to feed my tomatoes, and I'm gonna feed some other plants. But I'm gonna pan over here, but I'm also planting some other plants. So as you see, I have a slow release fertilizer. Y'all know I use Garden Tone in this bed that we cleared out. But over here, where I'm about to get ready to feed my tomatoes, I'm also about to get ready to use this Tomato Tone, which is a liquid fertilizer. And I just kind of want to break it down, especially if you're new to our channel. And if you're looking for more garden tips, y'all, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But I want to break it down how I use different fertilizers and different ways to feed the soil in my garden. If you don't hear anything else throughout this whole video, please know that as you continue to garden, the main thing you want to focus on is not necessarily the plants, but you want to work on feeding your soil. And sometimes that can take some gardening seasons, plural. It could take some seasons to do, but in the end, it will all be worth it. You'll see the big difference in your plants. So let me go ahead, let me share with you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So let's start with this bed right here. I cleared it all out yesterday. We had arugula in here that had gone to seed. So the purpose of me letting this bed stay so long is because I wanted to collect some seeds. We also had dill in here. We also had bachelor button. So I went ahead, I cleared it all out. And one way you could fertilize your soil is to top it with compost, which is what we did. As you will see, I have all used my Soil 3. So this is a company here in the Southeast. They'll deliver the soil to you. This is actually the veggie mix right here. And I used the last of it to go ahead and top the rest. Now in the fall, I'll get some more and we'll bring that soil level back up. But I wanted to get some things planted. And so right here where you see the slow release fertilizer, these grayish white things right here, this is the Garden Tone that we're going to mix in, because what we're going to do is we're going to plant some beans right here, some bush beans. They're going to take about 48 to 50 days, but remember, these are approximate dates. And so we're just going to have beans right here. Y'all know I love vegetables, flowers, herbs, all planted together. I had started some marigolds. We hardened those off, so I'm going to put marigolds right here because they also help with pests. And then we're just going to do beans, and we still got our lime thyme, the actual herb that is right here. And depending on how far the beans go, because what I do before I plant them, I direct sow them, but I'll soak them. And depending on how far they go in this bed, which is a 4x8, then I may add, some more flowers. I have some dwarf sunflowers right here that I don't plan on putting here. I'll just put some more marigold, because as you can see, I started quite a bit. So when you think about fertilizer, whether it's liquid, whether it's worm castings, which is a great fertilizer as well, whether it's compost, whether it's slow release, the granules, or liquid, we got to think about fertilizer as a food. So just like we have to have vitamins in our system, it's great for the plants to also have those nutrients as well. Now, the main nutrients that you will see on a lot of the packages, if you buy them at the garden centers, is you'll see what's called NPK, where the N is the nitrogen, the phosphorus is the P is the phosphorus, and that's great for root and flower development. And then you'll see K, which is for potassium, and that's just really for the overall health of the plant, and to be disease resistant. So you really need all of them, but you have to be careful because sometimes it just depends on what you're growing. And then also they have what's called like micronutrients in fertilizers. Now I'm going to let you see with the garden tone, the slow release, some of the other micronutrients that they also have. But I just want to give you an example when you go to the garden center, exactly what you're looking at. Okay, so most of the times you'll see three numbers when you're buying fertilizer, and this is 344, and that represents NPK, and they'll always be in that order. So it's like 3% of nitrogen in here, 4% of the phosphorus, or this is phosphate, and then 4% of the potassium. But you'll also see sometimes they have other nutrients in here. So they have calcium, they have magnesium, they have sulfur. They tell you where this is derived from. Where did they get these nutrients from to put in here as well? And then they have some other what's called non-plant ingredients. Now, all of them may not have everything on here, but most of the times they're going to have that NPK. And you'll just see it in these three numbers. Let's go take a look at the liquid fertilizer so I can show you what I'm talking about. And it just depends on the brand with how much information that they may have on here. But you see how this is a 131. And so at the beginning of the video, I shared with you that again, it's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And so your nitrogen is great for leafy growth. And so that's why a lot of times, y'all, I've gotten so many people that grow tomatoes that says, oh, my tomato plants has so many beautiful leaves on there and it's getting leaves, but I'm not getting fruit. Because sometimes if you have a fertilizer with a high nitrogen content, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a beautiful, beautiful leafy growth. Now, in the fall and the spring, when I'm growing a lot of my leafy greens, then I'll get a fertilizer that has a higher nitrogen count. Because remember, the nitrogen is for your leafy greens. Now, the phosphorus is for root and flower development. And a lot of your summer plants, they're fruiting plants. And do you see with this tomato tone that we're about to use, it has a high phosphorus because you want the flower development on there so that you could get fruit. And then again, the potassium is for the overall health of the plant and to be disease resistant. Now, let me share with you this. I consider a lot of our summer fruiting plants, our tomatoes, our peppers, our eggplants, I consider those heavy feeders. And so when we have a lot of rain and they're in raised beds or they're in containers, oftentimes those nutrients can get washed out, which is why I come in with a liquid fertilizer and I go ahead and I feed my plants. Now, I always pretty much when I'm getting ready to plant a new bed like this, I'm gonna add a slow release fertilizer in here because it does it over time. So think as the granules as over time releasing nutrients into the soil, but think of the liquid as go ahead getting it right to the plant, to the roots of the plant right then and right there. And a lot of times people may ask, well, how often do you fertilize? And I'm just going to tell y'all it depends. I know that we've had a lot of rain, and so I'm going to feed my containers. The containers are the first to get washed out with nutrients because especially all of the rain we had the other day. So I'm going to feed my containers. I'm going to go ahead and get those fed. But it just all depends. Like in the fall and the winter, I don't feed my plants as much. I'm growing them for the greens. I know that they're going to grow slower, so I'm not feeding them at a fast rate. But in the summertime, I may come in with a liquid fertilizer, maybe about every 2 to 3 weeks and feed them. And like I said, if you've gotten a whole bunch of rain, then I might come in a little more sooner than what I may put my plants on a schedule. So you might be wondering, okay, so what happens if I don't use fertilizer? Well, again, I'm going to tell y'all, focus on building your soil. I'm going to try to link that video to where when we first moved to this area, the first thing I did was went to the agriculture extension office here in Georgia, and I got a soil test done because I wanted to know where was I starting from, and then I can work it from there. Now, what I will tell you is I have some work to do with the plants that are in ground. We got a lot of clay soil here, lots of clay soil. Clay soil holds minerals. You know, it's no thing as good soil, bad soil. You want loamy soil, you want a lot soil that's alive. But the clay can hold minerals, but you also got to watch with the drainage because you do need the drainage. So I'm working on building the in-ground, just in-ground, in-ground plants, you know, like, so we do planting where we do in-ground. As you can see back here in the back, we do containers, we do raised beds. Now the raised beds, again, I'm going to link that video because it was great. Like, the results were great. We met all of them. And I must say it's because, you know, at first I was thinking, but that's why I'm going with the soil 3 again, is because when I got my soil test back, I knew I had filled my beds up with that. And so the nutrients were there. And I can also, I'll be honest with y'all, I could tell by the growth of my plants growing in the raised beds. So if you're not feeding your soil, you may notice that, like, they'll start out strong, but then they're kind of stall out. They'll grow slow. They may have yellowing leaves. They may have purple leaves on them, which can be lack of nutrients as well. They may not flower. They may not produce fruit if you don't fertilize your plants. They can become more susceptible with diseases and pests. I'm not saying that just because you have great soil, you won't have any pests, because I'm telling y'all, in the summertime, sometimes you do you have to battle those pests. And the reason why I say that is I always tell people, pests know the good stuff. You know, we try to grow organically. They know what's good. And so they go after that. But if you don't fertilize your soil, you may notice that your plants are not growing like really to their full potential. And so look at your leaves, see if they're yellowing, see if they're like a pale or a purple tinted, see if they're growing really slow. You may need to add some fertilizer to your soil around your plants. And so my go-to for the slow release, I'm always going to use either garden tone or plant tone. They're a little bit different in the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but if I can't find the garden tone, then I'll go with the plant tone. And then y'all know I've shared with you for the liquid fertilizer. Like, we have so many different tones, you know, for tomatoes, for blooms, for starters. And I've been using this for years. I've used other brands. I also use Dr. Earth as well. They have a liquid concentrate that I've shared with you before. So those are some that I just use in the garden. And what I can tell y'all is I do see a difference in the different fertilizers that I use and what we try to use, y'all, because we're growing food, we're growing herbs that we use inside of our home. Is I try to be as organic as possible. So you don't have to like overthink everything, because sometimes you can see so many things out on line that will just get you confused. Okay, so the main thing I'm going to tell you is to focus on building your soil. You could do that by using, first, if it were me, just like I started, go ahead, get a soil test. They're very reasonable, because that soil test, they're also going to ask you, what are you growing? What do you plan on growing? But they're also going to give you recommendations for how much you need, what you need. For example, for my in-ground soil test, they told me I needed to add lime to the soil. And lime is going to raise the pH of the soil because, believe it or not, it was slightly acidic. And if I'm growing vegetables and different things like that, we're going to need like more on the neutral side of a a pH for the soil, but they give you recommendations of what to use. So you can either use like a slow release fertilizer, you can use a liquid fertilizer. It's going to depend if you're growing in containers, if you're growing in ground, if you're growing in raised beds, but focus on building the soil. They're all different types of ways. If you want to start composting, using those kitchen scraps, letting them break down and then adding them as a layer into your soil, you could do that. It's so many ways. So I hope this video was helpful. I'm going to go ahead and start feeding this bed right here. Y'all put in the comments, what are some type of fertilizers that you use in your garden as well? And then I'm also going to link our 7-day quick start gardening guide. This will get you growing, get you going in about 7 days. So I'll make sure that I put that in the description. As always, thank you all so much for watching this video. Make sure you share this video with your family and your friends. And if you're not a subscriber, go ahead, tap that subscribe button. Make sure you tap the bell so that you can receive notification each and every time we upload a new video. Again, thank you all so much for watching. And until the next video, bye-bye.